Hello. Thanks for joining us for the Monday edition of the Todd Allbaugh Show, second to last show at noon.
That's
Although we
right.
will still be at 12, by which I mean the show's replay is going to play at midnight the day that
Is
night.
that a
Yeah,
fact? So technically, we'll still be on at 12,
we'll still
just
be on.
12 a.m.
Yes, exactly. Luke said he tried to get it so that we would play 2 to 4 a.m. as well, but all he could get was, 12 to 2, which, you know what, that works. All right, we got about 30 seconds.
Right.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our outstanding producer and engineer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 12 noon on this Monday, April 21st, 2025. It is a great day to be Wisconsinite. Glad to have you along from the world headquarters in downtown Madison, Wisconsin. Overcast skies. Mr. Zommers, a little rain, a little April showers, as they say. And then by the middle, Wednesday is supposed to be spectacular. Sunny skies and upper 60s at least. So in that time of year, have a nice Easter weekend.
I did. Got to spend some time with family, meet a new addition to the family, a couple-week-old baby named Oliver.
Congratulations.
And no deviled eggs this time, but that's okay. You just can't win them all. What about you?
A nice weekend. We'll talk a little bit more about Hour 2. It was back in the Richland Center. Service at St. John's Lutheran Church in Richland Center. Very nice service. Pastor Michelle, congrats to her. Always a big deal for pastors, priests, that sort of thing. It's the big day of the year, Christmas and Easter. And so a very nice service there. And then a lovely dinner at Mom's. A shout out to my youngest niece, Isabel, who's graduating Eau Claire Memorial High School this year, and she has made a decision. She is going to UW Stout this fall. So congratulations to her, and got to see my oldest niece, Addison, as well. So great family weekend. We'll talk about that more in Hour 2. But right now, lots of news to get to today. Speaking of Hour 2, we'll have a little fun with What's Worse, the Bad Breath or Body Odor Edition. How about that? At 12:34, coming up later this half hour, Jimmy Kuska, Civic Media Sports Director. Lots of changes to the WIAA coming. We'll talk to Jimmy about that. But right now, we welcome via StreamYard from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our friend and ongoing contributor, a two-time chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party of Wisconsin, great attorney, Navy veteran, and an author as well. And today, nothing more prescient than one of his great books called Confessions of a Church Leader in Defense of Christianity. The one and only Matt Flynn joins us from Milwaukee. Matt, good afternoon to you, my friend.
It's good to be with you, Todd and Aaron. It's been a while, and it's always great to be on the Todd Allbaugh Show.
Well, we're very thankful to have you come on short notice today. But of course, the breaking news story of the morning, or at least overnight, the passing of Pope Francis. And Matt, as a practicing Catholic, and you've defended the Catholic Church in court before yourself. Before we get into all the details, just as a Catholic, as an individual, you personally, upon hearing the news this morning, what were your first thoughts?
I felt very sad. I think that Pope Francis was a great man. And the truth of the matter is that over the last 50 years, we've had much more conservative popes. I refer to them as counter-Reformation popes. Then we've had Pope Francis. We had Pope John the 23rd, who were more liberal, and I would refer to them as Renaissance popes. But Pope Francis was very special. What he did was he liberalized the church, and he liberalized the church. He appointed cardinals who were much more liberal, so that when they vote, many people don't know it, but every cardinal under the age of 80 can vote for the Pope and the next Pope. Under the age of 80, there's about 126 of them. And Pope Francis appointed many of them and did not appoint any truly conservative or reactionary cardinals. So I think that we are going to have a good convocation and a good successor to Pope Francis.
As a kid who grew up Methodist, and I guess I would say non-denominational, my mom's at, as I said in the open there, St. John's Lutheran Church in Richland Center, but a person of faith. There was actually a time, Matt, in my life as a teenager, I had a brief kind of foray. I thought about, wow, wouldn't it be cool to be a priest? Because I'm drawn to the pomp and circumstance, the tradition of the Catholic Church, and I think there is something to be said for kind of a security in a foundation when everything else in life is crazy. And one of my closest friends is Catholic, a longtime practicing Catholic, lifelong. And I've gone to Easter masses, I've gone to Christmas masses, and there's something just soothing and calming about it. So I think even for those of us who didn't grow up Catholic, there is a certain connection to the Pope and the Catholic Church. What I was struck, and I want your thoughts on this particular Pope seemed to me from the outside to embody the essence of Christianity and walk in Christ's shoes, the humility, choosing to live in a 2-room apartment, a guest house in the Vatican, and not the palatial, 10, 11-room palace in the Vatican, choosing to carry his own bag and kind of goading the other cardinals and priests. Hey, if I'm doing it, you better do it too. And he going to the prison and washing the feet of prisoners on Maundy Thursday and not the feet of other priests. He seemed to set an example, and I'll shut up. The last thing, when he sat on his plane one time and talking about gay folks in the Catholic Church, at the end he said, "But hey, who am I to judge?" I've never heard a priest with that sort of humility before.
Right. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I admired him a great deal. For one thing, remember, he's from Argentina. He was the first non-European pope since the 8th century. And the truth of the matter is that he grew up in Argentina during all the troubles down there. He had a much more balanced worldview. And he said, as far as gay people, that they had a right to family, and he advocated for gay people. He also pointed out that the celibacy rule was not in the Bible, and it's not a matter of church doctrine. It's just custom, and that it easily, there are, people don't know this, but there are Catholic priests who are married and have kids. They are former ministers or Episcopal priests who converted, and they brought their families with them. So he challenged us on many, many fronts, including female clergy. The book of mine that you alluded to, Confessions of a Church Lawyer in Defense of Christianity, is my observation about Pope Francis and how he liberalized the church and started to clean up the abuse scandal. And anybody interested in Pope Francis, you may want to read that, because I was the lawyer for the Archdiocese of Milwaukee for 15 years.
And I think that's another great point, is that the Catholic Church, certainly there are instances within the church where there was abuse, and it's important, and Pope Francis never shied away from that. In fact, he tried, I think, in my opinion, from the outside, to take that on. And I think it's important in any organization of faith, heck, in any organization, there's always going to be some form of abuse, whether it's financial, whether it's sexual, impropriety, however it is. But here's a pope that said, hey, guess what? We as Catholics aren't perfect, and we need to do better, and we need to have real reform. That's from an outsider, Matt. What would be your take as a Catholic?
No, I think that's very, very accurate. And the thing about him was he was totally honest. I mean, he was totally what you saw is what you got. He didn't. There was no guile to him. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of times in politics, and the church is a political organization. I mean, it's exactly like the cardinals are like the senators. The next one wants to be pope, and they maneuver. If you saw the recent movie about it, it was a very, very good movie.
Now I want to go back and watch Conclave.
You got to.
I heard it's a great movie.
It has a surprise ending. All right,
we won't give it away.
I'm not giving it away. That said, Pope Francis was above that, and he's one of the shining lights of the papacy over the last 2,000 years. We're sorry to miss him. Give you a little bit of a hint. There was some initial thought that the cardinal from Manila, believe it or not, an Asian, would be the next pope. In other words, the thing about the Catholic Church is it's really international. There will be an African pope, there will be an Asian pope, there was a South American pope. So stand by for some very, very interesting conclaves coming
Well,
up.
that's what I was gonna ask you. We're talking with Matt Flynn via StreamYard right now, a two-time chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, an attorney, a Navy veteran, and author. One of his great books, one of many, you can get them on Amazon, Confessions of a Church Leader in Defense of Christianity. Literally wrote, maybe not, I'll call it the book, but certainly a book on Pope Francis. I was watching the coverage this morning, Matt, as it was breaking as I was getting up. And there's all this talk now who is next. There's some people saying that the next pope may be a placeholder pope. Maybe explain to people that aren't familiar with the Catholic Church what that means. And then other people are saying no, because of your point earlier, because Pope Francis has, I'm going to use the word nominated or put in place about 80% of the cardinals who will elect the next one, that they're not going to go back to some very, very conservative doctrine type of pope. Give us some insight on what might be next.
Right. So this placeholder business, they always say that. The funniest one in history was when they said Pope John the 23rd would be a placeholder, and he convened Vatican II, and he disrupted everything. So you can't, once the person gets in, you can't say what he's going to be. In this particular case, I'm expecting that they may look very seriously at Asia and Africa for a pope to emphasize the international aspect of the church. But even if they don't, it's inconceivable to me that they would elect a pope who is like Benedict or who is like John Paul II, because going back to that kind of conservatism nowadays would be disastrous. I think the church realizes that, and the people that Pope Francis appointed as cardinal, who will be the electors, are much more in his line of thought.
And just kind of, well, maybe not finally, but a final thought for me at least is, it doesn't really matter, I don't think, whether it's Catholic or Protestant, that many churches across America are seeing a steep decline in their parishioners. And look, as you said, there's a certain amount of politics to all religions, and a certain amount of, I'll call it even entertainment or show business, that the homilies, that the masses, that the preachers on the Protestant side, the services, many of them now with the non-denominational churches. I mean, it's lights, it's live bands, it's video screens, and that in order for the Catholic Church in particular to not only just grow but survive, that they need a leader who's more in tune with 2025, with young people, who's going to be more open-minded without completely throwing out the long-standing tradition of the Catholic Church.
No, that's very, very true. And one of the things I liked about Pope Francis more than anything, because he was, 88? I mean, he's not a young guy. But the thing about him was...
In the U.S. Senate, they call that just getting going.
Yeah, he'd be a freshman.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, but the second thing is that he invited the Archbishop of Canterbury and the head of the Presbyterian Church in Scotland on the Papal Plain, and the three of them flew to Somalia and Sudan to preach Christianity, but more importantly, to preach compassion, to preach the end of war, and to preach wealthy nations helping and feeding them. It was a wonderful ecumenical signal. And unfortunately, that's being lost right now when we have an administration that's canceling U.S. aid and canceling all this stuff. And so I think that the signal that has to come out of all the principal Christian churches has got to be compassion, has got to be unity, and has got to be the sanctity of the individual. And he did that, and I think young people can spot that. And I think you're absolutely right. The new pope may be a much younger pope, actually.
Matt Flynn, author of Confessions of a Church Leader in Defense of Christianity, his thoughts on the passing of Pope Francis. We'll take a quick break, come back with Matt's thoughts on what's happening in Washington, D.C., in particular, the courts. So stay with us in the Second Network.
Good. By the way, it's Confessions of a Church Lawyer, Lawyer, not leader.
What did I say?
Okay?
Oh, I'm
leader.
And that's cool.
I've got it written as lawyer.
No,
My God, I
that's
can't
fine.
read my own writing.
No, just
I'll
for,
clarify it when we come back.
Yeah, right.
He was a leader, but the book
he was a
title,
leader.
Todd,
Well, he
is
thought he was a
lawyer.
leader, but they didn't vote for him.
Some people did. Some people did.
Oh, God.
Oh, Lordy.
Like 75% of your groceries fall from one place that you
And then if you want, at the very end, I will give you a quick hot tip.
are fantastic. I love a hot
You
tip
say
from Matt Flynn.
it's a hot. Do you have a hot tip? You have 30 seconds. I'll give it in 30 seconds.
All right, fantastic. I love it. I love it.
All right.
Some of small farmers.
And by the way, if they elect the cardinal from Manila, that's going to be unbelievable.
That
Because
would
the
be
Chinese,
yeah.
holy God.
Right?
Until next time, I'm Terry Boss.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel.
Ross calling in.
Thanks for your show. I'm just wondering if we're watching or witnessing a legal system that where what we thought was precedent is now going to be cast away.
The reality is the question that you raise about the future and what are the implications when in fact the things we understood always to be bedrocks of our community, of our nation, are no longer that.
Amicus, a law review, Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. The John and Gordy Show.
Talking with Mike McCabe, Substack blogger. You talk about your time in the Peace Corps.
Yeah, I still remember the blessings.
On this side of the law, on that side of the law. Who is right, who is wrong, who is for and who's against the law?
Welcome back
Well,
to Matt
you see,
Flynn
I
Direct. No, it's Matt
didn't
Flynn
really
Direct on the Todd
mean
Allbaugh
you
Show.
any
21
harm.
past the hour of 12 noon on this Monday, April 21st, 2025. Whenever you hear Johnny Cash on this show, you know that our friend Matt Flynn is not far behind. He is a two-time chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, an attorney, a great author. He's a great author. I am not a great reader of my own writing. The book that we are talking about here a little bit, or we were in the last segment on to mark the passing of Pope Francis earlier today. The book is called Confessions of a Church Lawyer, not leader, but lawyer. Confessions of a Church Lawyer in Defense of Christianity. You can find it wherever books are sold. Sorry about that, Matt.
Yeah, well, thanks. No, and I enjoyed writing the book, but it's a testimony to Pope Francis. He came in and cleaned up a lot of things. He appointed very, very liberal cardinals, and he tried to liberalize the church as much as he could.
Yeah. We'll continue to follow this as the conclave unfolds. First, of course, a time of mourning, and there'll be a funeral for Pope Francis, and then the conclave begins. And Matt, maybe we'll have you back on as that gets closer to kind of walk us through that as we get
Great.
closer. Are you a candidate, Matt? Can you? You've run for many things. I think you'd make a great pope. I think you'd make a great pope.
If you took a poll in Madison, I might get no votes. In fact, I hope I get no votes because it would show the good sense of Madison. I am not a candidate, and I will not serve. Thank you.
If nominated, you will not run, and if elected, you will not serve. But you look great in a white robe. I'm just saying, you know. All right. In all seriousness, want to turn to we have a few minutes left here. At the bottom of the hour, we're going to have Jimmy Kuska on talking about changes at the WIAA. But Matt, a lot has happened on this Kilmar Garcia story. You were on when this first broke, when Trump sent 3 plane loads of allegedly Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador. Federal judge said, time out. You might be able to do it, but you got to give these guys due process. Trump said no. The president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, being paid $6 million plus now to take these folks. The Supreme Court, since then, has basically said, no. You have to give them due process. I feel we're in a constitutional crisis here, Matt Flynn. What say you?
Yeah, that's true. And let me tell you what's happening, because this reminds me of the Reichstag back in 1933. The senators and the congressmen are standing by and putting up with this stuff. Here's the danger. He's kidnapping people off the streets right now who are not citizens, and they're foreigners. And look, many of them may be members of the gang. I get it. But you don't just do that and send them to a torture prison, because the next people up, he said, he'll send our prisoners, citizens. And if that happens, he's going after Mr. Krebs and others who opposed him in the last administration. And once they're convicted, he'll send his political opponents. This guy has got to be stopped right now. It doesn't matter. Once they're in our territory, even if illegally, you don't kidnap them. You arrest them, and you can send them to Guantanamo as long as we have jurisdiction over Guantanamo. Try them. You can try them in a military tribunal, but you don't send them to a torture prison. Period. End of story. And this guy is blowing off the federal courts. Now and I'm afraid Clarence Thomas and Alito are with him no matter what he does. So
that seems to be it, right?
It is it. And so I talk about the 6 tarantulas. 2 of them truly are tarantulas. The other 4 may be pussyfooting around. But
they're salvageable.
They're maybe salvageable, but they're unsightly looking critters because, I mean, otherwise you're going to have
legally speaking,
Americans with American citizenship snatched off the street. Right. That's got to stop. They did it in Germany.
And that's the thing that I think that we've talked about on our show. I've heard on other shows. I heard a longtime Republican on, we'll just say, another network, on another show, say, "Oh, this is great for Republicans." I hope Democrats keep talking about this, because what they want to make it about, the Republicans, in my opinion, is this whole quote unquote legal versus illegal issue. In my opinion, Matt, it ain't about that. I mean, over the weekend, I think it was a Good Friday, right? Trump took a picture of this guy, Kilmar Garcia, that for everything that we know from the courts, this guy ain't guilty of being in a gang and has no business being held down in the gulags in El Salvador. And they had they took a picture of his hand, which, yes, does have a couple of tattoos on it, but they clearly photoshopped MS-13 on his knuckles. Trump shows that in the Oval Office on Good Friday, and it's all over social media. It is a fallacy, Matt. And and to your point, it's dangerous, because what they don't want folks to know is what you said. This is about due process for all of us.
Right. And by doing that, by putting out the fake knuckle picture, there's a lot of people who are not listening to your show. They're not reading the newspapers. They'll look at that and they say, "Oh, okay. He is deliberately implanting false information, propaganda." And for a president to do that, he should be impeached. This guy is a serious, ongoing threat to the United States. It doesn't matter.
We've seen people being disappeared in the Twin Cities. I talked to a friend out in Los Angeles. This is happening on the streets of L.A. Plainclothes people in masks, no identification, snatching people off the street, gone, disappeared. And to your point, he says in the White House to Bukele last week, "Oh, well, we'll just the really bad Americans will take down El Salvador." Well, geez, who has he said is really bad? Joe Biden, Liz Cheney, General
Krebs,
Milley.
Right.
That's
right. His enemies, and that's what's going to happen. The next, he's already said, are going to be American citizens. And the thing about due process isn't that even this guy Garcia, he may be a bad guy. Okay.
Right.
Keep him in the United States or in Guantanamo. Try him. Take a look at least what the heck he's alleged to have done. And even though they falsified his knuckles, if he is a member of a gang, fine. But the point is that we'll get rid of him. But the falsified knuckles, give me a break. Give me a break.
And this whole narrative about MS-13, look, I don't have time to go into it. I've been there 39 times over 25 plus years. The way it happened prior to Bukele, and I'll give Bukele credit, that the gangs went to each house when his boys turned 16, knocked on the door, said it'd be terrible if Jose came back with blood on his shoes. So he either joins our gang or you pay $50 a month for us to protect him. That's real. And that's, so when I hear that this guy Garcia, well, he's a member of every 16-year-old in El Salvador had to make a choice, die or join a gang. So this narrative is crazy. 30 seconds, Matt, give us a hot tip.
Here's a hot tip. In the upcoming Supreme Court race next April, there are a number of people, including some judges, who have told Judge Bill Pocan in Milwaukee that they would support him if he ran. He's an outstanding judge. Keep an eye on Bill Pocan of Milwaukee, an outstanding judge who is considering it.
Wow, that is a hot tip. Haven't heard that. Bill Pocan of Milwaukee considering the race for Wisconsin State Supreme Court.
Right.
Matt Flynn always has the inside information, and he makes us smile. Matt Flynn, thank you very much. Appreciate you, my friend.
See you next time. Thanks.
See you next time, Matt Flynn. Stay tuned. Jimmy Kuska and WIAA is next on the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media.
Against the law.
That was fantastic, Matt. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was a great show. Good color.
Good
and If the conclave comes along, let me know, because some of it,
Oh yeah,
like the
I wanna
Asian
watch.
guy, would be interesting. It'd be very interesting.
that'd be stupid. Tony on YouTube says, "Is that Mark's brother?"
Yes, it is.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah,
All right. Very
yeah.
fascinating.
He's really a great judge. He's very, very well known.
All right. That's
Very
awesome.
well known.
Well, we'll bring it back on. We'll schedule it further in advance. So we'll get you on.
Yeah,
for
we'll
an
do
hour.
it again. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, so
Yep,
long,
bye-bye.
Aaron. So long. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Adios.
Click an X, or what do I do? Here, I click an X.
Yeah,
Yep.
you can just close out the window.
Yeah, there we go.
Excellent.
Awesome.
And another one that's coming up for a grand opening in the near future is the new Lafayette County Hospital in Darlington, Wisconsin. They are just finishing up construction this spring and will be opening, and at the present are planning a grand opening sometime in June of this year. And that is also a brand new full replacement hospital and medical clinic.
Madsen also says that their biggest goal is to help better agriculture in rural America as a whole.
Star of
For
stage
the
and
Midwest
screen,
Farm
Jimmy
Report,
Kuska.
I'm Ben Jarbo. We'll take a look at those midday markets.
Can you hear us, Jimmy?
Right after this.
I can hear you. Yep.
All right, very good. How are you today?
All right. Long time no talk.
How are things in beautiful Boscobel?
What's that? Sorry.
So how are things in beautiful Boscobel?
There we go. Yeah, sorry, I had to fix the volume. It was quiet.
It's all good.
No, everything's good. A little sunburned from 2 soccer and 2 football games on Saturday, but
he coaches, he announces, he does it all.
Yeah.
Have you ever done? See, that'd be the next thing, broadcasting the game as you coached.
I haven't tried it yet. But I believe the school's tried because they want to do a live broadcast of home games. So
Oh, really? Yeah.
I have done occasionally just for free, stepped in like basketball or something, just to do it for fun. But like I haven't done it where I've been like on the sidelines calling a game and then like calling a game like plays. So
right. All right, this is great. So we'll talk. Obviously, I should say obviously, but I'm anticipating we'll do a little NIL. What might be ahead for Wisconsin athletes? Any other specific subjects? I'll make sure we touch.
From the annual meeting this week, not only NIL but summer contact days.
Okay.
'Cause that's going to be one that I think affects people just because they want to open it up instead of having a 5-day limit. They want, an unrestricted amount of days in the summer, with the exception of the week of the 4th, which I think will affect families. And then there is I'm going to write an article about it, but they are considering a rule that will make anybody kicked out of a game, any fan, they'll have to take a sportsmanship course before they're allowed back.
Really? That's fascinating.
Yep. So that's the other one that's going to draw some attention. The other two are, one is a sport not being subject to the tournament performance rules, and the other one basically makes freshman seasons the same length as JV seasons. So not super interesting, but
not as sexy.
No,
but still important.
But those are the 3 big ones. NIL was brought up last year. I think people are still like confused that it's going to be like college. We're going to have like a transfer portal and all this crazy. It's not like that at all. It's actually pretty restrictive in high school, the way they have it set up. And then summer contact one is the one that actually, when I was at the coaches clinic in Middleton a couple of weeks ago, beginning of the month, that's the one that they actually did a straw poll on just to see what support there was. And it's pretty mixed among the football coaches that were there. So some coaches like it for a couple of reasons. Some coaches don't like it for a couple of reasons. And then the administrators in the room were like, well, this is just going to create conflicts with, some sports are in season in June, and then everybody wants to have kids for this amount of days and this, and then there's club and travel, family vacations. Like there's just a million ways to see this going wrong. So
that's awesome.
All right,
those are the big 3, and then anything else you want to talk about, I am pretty ready for.
Sounds good. All right, thank you very much.
Yep. Turning off my reminders so it's quiet. There we go.
may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network for a Monday, the 21st of April, 2025. Glad to have you along. 34 past the hour of 12 noon. Many thanks to Matt Flynn for joining us today. Always a pleasure to talk with him, and always a pleasure to talk with our next guest. He is Civic Media's sports director, amongst many other things that he does in the sports world. Mr. Jimmy Kuska joins us on StreamYard from beautiful Southwest Wisconsin. Basketball, along the hitherto unknown fact, a lot of people, basketball is the turkey hunting capital of the world. How about that, right, Jimmy Kuska?
Don't I know it, because our first weekend we're doing summer or spring flag football, and it was the youth turkey hunt that weekend, and I want to say a third of our team was out hunting turkey. So.
I was going to say a low roster. That was not a great.
I almost had to go throw passes.
But no, it's a big deal, and for people in more, I guess, urban areas of our listenership across the state, they might not get it. But this is a huge deal and kind of a rite of passage in Southwest Wisconsin, that a lot of young kids in their teens, they've taken firearm safety. You have to pass that, or you go with a parent or whatever. And for me, I occasionally still turkey hunt, but for me, it's just being outside. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, down here, this part of the state, it's a lot like where I grew up in northwestern Wisconsin, where there are certain hunting seasons, or fishing, if that's your thing, that people plan their lives around. They have cabins built specifically for going out and doing this. They have land just for doing this. But yeah, it's a lot like the other rural parts of the state. It's just down here, it happens to be turkey and trout. Like, that's new to me, because those weren't big things where I grew up. But it's really cool, because I think in Wisconsin, we have such an abundant a way of getting outside, like you said, and enjoying what the state has to offer. I'm all for it. I don't personally hunt myself, but I really enjoy the fact that there are kids that are not just sitting around a PlayStation on the weekend; they're out and doing something. Like that. That's awesome.
Exactly right. Well, Jimmy, lots of our youth are involved in high school sports all across the state. WIAA, you always keep track of that for us. You do some coaching yourself, in addition to, it's pretty much you, Phil Nee at WRCO, and Chad Holmes up at WXCO in Wausau. The three of you are always on the air calling something, and I always appreciate you coming on updating us. Tell us what the big stories are coming up here at WIAA for our high school athletes here in 2025.
This is a big week for the WIAA. It's the annual meeting, and this is where the member schools gather in Stevens Point or virtually, and they get to vote on a number of amendments and do their like any other organization that has an executive board, your business meeting. So you go through your minutes, you go through your business stuff, your awards, announcements, etc. But the 5 amendments are usually, this year anyway, the amendment portion is usually what draws the most attention, because these are the proposed changes that have gone through the various committees, the board of control, and everything else. They have to go through 3 or 4 levels to get to a point before they're in front of membership. And there are 5 amendments on the table this year. And one of them is going to be, I think, pretty familiar, because it was on the agenda last year in the exact same form, and that is name, image, and likeness. Now, Todd, in college, we've seen what this has done in college, right? This has created bidding wars for top players, or not even top players, just random players, to be honest. I mean, there's thousands of kids in the transfer portal, right now, waiting to go to a new college. The way it's being done in high schools, though, across the nation, is a lot different than the college model. And Wisconsin's actually one of the last states to adopt this. I think there's only 7 states that haven't adopted some form of NIL policy at its membership level, their state association level. So Wisconsin's a little bit behind the game. They were last year too. I think 33 states at this point last year had. I think this year it's a little over 40. There's conflicting numbers, but it's right around 42. So Wisconsin's one of the last 7 or 8 states to actually have this policy. So membership will vote this year. It failed last year mostly because a lot of administrators got up to the mic and said they didn't have enough time to educate their stakeholders, their coaches, their communities about the impacts of this and what it would mean for them locally. Well, now we've had a year and 2 months. We've had 14 months to consider it. And the expectation, just based on people I talked to, being at a football coaches clinic earlier this month, the general feeling is that this is going to pass this time, because if it doesn't pass this time, there are a couple of states where it also failed in its membership, and then the state legislature got involved, and you don't want the state legislature getting involved in something like this.
And let's just kind of set the table a little bit for those listeners who might not be sports minded when we hear NIL or name, image, and likeness. For that, in my opinion, we've had Brady Ewing from Richland Center, former Wisconsin Badger football player, spent 3 years in the NFL, talk about this, that when Brady was playing, you chose a university out of high school or whatever, and then you stuck with it for 4 years. If you wanted to transfer to a different one, you had to sit out from play on the field for a year, and then you could do it. And of course, back then, players couldn't even accept, literally a bottle of water from a recruiter because that had a value, and you could have all kinds of penalties. Now, of course, and partly thanks to what Nigel Hayes at Wisconsin in the basketball program years ago for bringing this up, now the courts have ruled players could get basically endorsement deals and everything else, and they can transfer at almost any time and not sit out. So that's what we're talking about, that has changed the college scape. And a lot of people, Jimmy, are fearful that if you bring that into Wisconsin high schools, that suddenly now bigger schools, say, a private school like Notre Dame out in Green Bay, which has a lot of money, that they're going to poach a kid that's playing in Shawano, let's say 30 miles away, and say, hey, come over to our school. We'll give you a cash and a brand new Chevy truck. Is that the kind of stuff that we could potentially see in Wisconsin high school sports?
Quick anecdote: Brady Ewing, by the way, his sons are in the same soccer league as my son is. So I actually sat next to him on Saturday watching soccer in Richland Center. So
he's a great guy. He comes on this show. We love him to death, and his brother Brandon. So he's.
Anyway, that's a quick anecdote. I just that's funny you brought him up. Anyway, there's a couple of things that I want to call attention to here. And that, first of all, in college, yes, the rules are very loose. So like transfers, there are students that are transferring to 4 different schools in their high school career, which are college.
Yeah.
You have college, not high school. College career, which is pretty crazy. In high school, they have a couple of things that are going to slow this whole thing down and make this a little more restrictive. First of all, there is a transfer rule in Wisconsin where if your parents don't move, they don't physically move into a new district, you actually have to sit out a year too. So there is a high school transfer rule where you have to sit out. A lot of times, a parent will get an apartment in whatever city they're going to. If it's really going to be for athletics, they're probably just going to rent an apartment or something, right? The people with means to do this would probably just do that, right? That's kind of the doom and gloom scenario of people who are against this. But typically, if you transfer, you can't just open enroll in a new district and just play right away. There's a transfer for especially for older students. There's a transfer rule that restricts that. You can still play JV. You can't play varsity level sports when you transfer. So that's one part in which the WIAA sort of restricts that player movement piece. But the other part of it, the NIL piece, the way that it's drawn up in Wisconsin, and by the way, you'll see the full amendment piece up on our civic media websites, and you can also visit the WIAA website to fully grasp the language of this. But the NIL thing, case in Wisconsin is very restricted because first of all, student can't represent their school, their sport, their conference, or the WIAA in any NIL advertisement or marketing. So if I'm a student athlete and I'm playing football, I can't be sitting there holding a football in front of the high school or anything. You can have no association with your school teams or any of that stuff. So that's one way to restrict
just your personal brand, so to speak.
Yes,
that's
it's just you. So if people recognize your name, image, and or likeness, that's your value, right? The other part of this too is that coaches, school members, anybody who has donated money to a booster club or to the school in any capacity, you're not allowed to contribute to NIL. So this is the big part that has people conflicted, is that if you've ever donated to the program in some way, whether it's been through a bake sale or a cash donation or anything like that, any way they can track it, you're not allowed to contribute to NIL for a high school student athlete. Really? This is the piece that really restricts where the money's going to come from. So in your example, if a school program is like, hey, we got a vehicle we're going to give to this student athlete to come over here and play soccer for us or something like that. That just isn't going to happen because a lot of the people already involved in high school athletics are already donating time and money to programs. So there's going to be, it's going to be a very interesting way to see how people, kind of work through that. I know that the WIAA has signed up with an NIL collective to sort of help this. But another part of it too is that like coaches and school staff, anybody that works for a school, even a volunteer like me, you can't be an agent. You can't refer people like to NIL deals. So there's a lot of different restrictions on NIL in Wisconsin where it's not going to be this free flowing deal like it is in college athletics, high school athletics. I feel like with the restrictions in place are pretty well protected, especially the rule on donations. That really restricts the pool of potential NIL endorsements.
And we're talking to Jimmy Kuska, Civic Media Sports Director, about name, image, and likeness possibly coming to Wisconsin this year. One more question I have, just as I find it fascinating. But let's say you have Joe's Dodge Ram dealership, and Joe Smith is the one who donates and $1,000 a year to put their name up next to the scoreboard on the football field. But Joe has a partner, and so the partner, the husband, the wife, whoever it might be of Joe, are they eligible to donate? So it's not the actual person, it's not the same person, but it's someone who might share a bank account or have access to it.
Yeah, that would make the student athlete ineligible. The rule, it's not this big sprawling legal definition, right? But typically a family is considered part of that donation, especially if they share finances or co-own a business. That would fall under this pretty easily.
All right.
That's an easy answer. I don't want to spend a lot of time.
No,
I'm not a legal scholar, not a legal mind, but the way it's written, it's pretty clear.
Because you and I both know when these things happen, there's always going to be someone who finds a way around it. And I think from people I've talked to, you know them better than anybody else. There might be, a dozen, I guess you go basketball and football, the two big sports. There might be 25 athletes throughout Wisconsin in girls and boys sports that are the rock stars. And the fear is that those kids are going to end up with big NIL money. And on those teams, it's kind of going to be like, well, Joe or Jane gets all that, and it's just going to create bad feelings.
Yeah, there's going to be an equity in this. And I think this rule is really designed for the 0.01% of high school student athletes that are probably going to a Division I college. They're going to compete at the highest level. Maybe they're going pro. This is really what this is geared around. The numbers that they cited for ineligibility cases at the WIAA in the last year's meeting, so it would be for like 2 or 3 years ago, it was a little over a dozen kids would have been eligible under the current proposed NIL rule. So we're talking about a really small number of students that are probably affected by this.
All right. All I care about is when this is legal, I'm going to help sponsor Parker Klein basketball because all he wants is custard from Culver's. Doesn't want money, just wants a free dish of custard, be an NIL deal for Culver's, and I'm his agent. And
Same. I'm with you. I'm with you.
A couple minutes left before the first break, Jimmy. Give us another point here, then we'll come back and discuss it.
Sure. I think the one that might affect the people that have students that are actually playing sports is that there is an amendment on the table for this week that's going to be voted on that would free up summer contact. So summer contact is when a coach can actually instruct a student athlete outside of season, outside of sport, whatever, from June 1st to July 31st. So in the past, it's been 5 days. You have 5 days. And what constitutes coaching contact? It doesn't have to be an organized practice. It's something as simple as if you're, say, a coach supervising a weight room session, and a kid is like, hey, how do you shoot a free throw, right? You want to show a kid how to shoot a free throw. And you go and you're like, oh, you got to get your knees, you got to get your shoulders square, and your release point is here. That's a coaching contact day. So you lose a whole day for that sport for coaching contact if you show one person how to shoot a free throw. So the rule is proposed because the gray area in this is that the enforcement isn't up to really the WIAA. They don't have people hanging out in gyms during the summer. They don't have people at fields during the summer making sure that, are you a coach? Are you a coach? Are you on this team? They're not doing that. It's all reported by the schools. It's self-reported. And the way the rule is intended, I think anyway, is that it's going to free up some of the headaches that administrators at schools have to deal with in determining whether it's coaching contact or not coaching contact. That's really the crux of it, is that they're trying to lessen that load on administrators. But as I learned at the coaching clinic, at the football coaching clinic earlier this month, there are a lot of feelings both ways on this one. And I think this one, not NIL, but I think this one will probably be the most contentious vote at the annual meeting this Friday.
Yeah, and of course we're talking about, contact in terms of reaching out and helping a kid, not like football contact or whatever.
No, it's not like padded practice.
Right,
no,
right.
It's something as simple as you kick a soccer ball at the inside of your foot. That's coaching contact.
If the late great Elvitus Rip, my football coach from Richland Center, were still around, I'm sure he would look at this and say, "Oh, geez, no contact. You might as well go play soccer." Yeah. He was not a fan of soccer back in the day. All right, we'll come back, talk to Jimmy Kuska more about sports. You're listening to Todd Allbaugh's show on the Civic Media Radio Network. high school soccer came to Richland Center while I was in high school. It was the first time. And of
We
course,
just signed up as a co-op here in basketball with Prairie du Chien.
Really?
So, yep.
And,
my son's playing it, and I'm
it's
fine.
great.
He's outside. He's playing. I don't.
It's
whatever.
awesome. It's great. But Coach Rip was not. He's old school, and so the soccer coach was trying to recruit a couple of the football guys to switch over and play soccer. And he goes, "Oh, geez, soccer! It's just a kick in the grass."
No, we've been good neighbors in it here because we have a youth program in basketball. It's about 120 kids strong.
It's everywhere.
Yep, and it's great because they start in kindergarten. Well, here, football hasn't had a youth program that's been functional in 30 years in basketball. It's been they had a couple of years. They bring in a flag league. They do a thing, but now for the last few years they've had a good youth tackle, and now now that I started this year youth flag, we're growing it too, but.
That's awesome.
Got to get kids active, and so our participation rate in high school, I know this as a board member, is dipped under 40%. And that's not just sports; that's all activities. So we got to get kids involved in stuff. We just have to.
Yeah,
I think if you start them young, they'll stick with something through high school. So. Yep. I can do a little more on summer contact if you want. Just talk about the pros and cons, and then we can go to the fan behavior part.
Yep, that's great.
Fan behavior one is interesting. They did put in that one-game ban a couple of years ago, and now they have a NFHS sportsmanship class you have to take in order to come back to games, which is awesome.
I
love it. Keep those knuckleheads at bay.
Tom, watching on YouTube, is the new time Todd will have not be as centered on politics. Just curious. Great question, Tom. I'm soliciting opinions. We haven't decided yet. It won't be dramatically different than what we do now. But what do you think? Should we do slightly? Because we got Tom Hartman for
10 seconds.
3 hours, and then Maggie Dawn. So I'm thinking maybe a little less political. But tell us your thoughts.
I think we are all really in politics.
Pursuing truth wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Nobody more fun at Civic Media than our sports director, Jimmy Kuska. He joins us from Boscobel, Wisconsin via StreamYard, talking sports. Before we get back to the WIAA annual meeting, Jimmy, you fielded questions already here. Dan in Wausau, listening up there. Well, he's listening on WAUK, but he is in Wausau. He says, we need a shot clock in high school basketball yesterday. The WIAA probably knows it, but doesn't change it obviously. Jimmy, what do you say?
Beginning of the school year, the WIAA Board of Control, which, by the way, is made up of mostly administrators from around the state, they voted against it. So, again, this year. But I will say this, there are a lot of schools that have, if they've managed to pass the facilities referendum and it included a gym, they have added the shot clock to it, and that includes right here in Boscobel. There's a shot clock ready to go for when the state actually adds it, because Wisconsin is, like other things, among the last holdouts for it. Now, shot clock is split almost 50-50 among high schools in the state, but Wisconsin will be there. Its neighbors are already starting in various stages. It'll be here. It might not be for a few years.
I don't know the answer to this question. That's why I'm asking it. But the AAU, the non-WIAA leagues, do they use a shot clock?
I think it depends on the venue they're in.
right.
Some venues have it and some don't, especially here in Wisconsin, but they're typically using college venues. I think they do a lot of tournaments do it. Like I know in Illinois, when they launched this, they started with just like holiday tournaments and things just to kind of get used to it, to kind of work it in. So if the venue has it, I think they do for the most part, but I'll be honest, I don't follow a lot of AAU. So that I think that's more of a venue/mutual agreement kind of situation.
I mean, I just think it makes sense. I mean, who wants to stand there and watch a kid just hold on to a ball for 90 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever? I mean, come on, get with the times, folks. All right, Jimmy, what else is coming up? You've got one. This one, I love this one, involving the fans, because I, for one, am sick and tired of these parents. And this has gotten to the point where verbally abusive to the referees, to coaches, to kids. And it's about darn time we take these things on. Tell us about it, Jimmy.
Yep. So the WIAA a few years ago put in a one-game ban for anybody kicked out of a high school game. If you're, if the official, the game manager says you're out of line, you're out of here, you got to miss one more game. Well, that's staying put. The amendment this year that's up for membership vote, and I think this will pass pretty easily, is that in addition to being kicked out for a game, on top of the game you're in, one additional game from that venue, You now have to take a sportsmanship course to the NFHS, which is the United States governing organization for high school sports, right? You now have to take the sportsmanship course. You got to do it online, obviously, but you have to take it, have the certificate that proves you pass it before you're let back into that venue. First of all, awesome, because fan behavior is out of line. It just is.
Yeah.
I know this as a coach. I had someone yelling at me about a special teams play. I'm a volunteer. I turned around, took my hat and my clipboard, and I handed it to him like, if you want to do this, I'm here for volunteering my time. You can do it. Right. Fan never said a word to me after that for the rest of the year, right? It was obviously a relative of one of our
honestly,
players.
Jimmy, I don't even call these people fans. I mean, they're, to your point, so many of our coaches, youth coaches especially, are getting nothing for this. And sometimes they're even using their own money to buy basic equipment for the team if the boosters don't come through or whatever. Our officials they're not making big money. They're getting a stipend at best to pay for a burger and maybe their gas to the thing. And these idiot fans who are harassing coaches and are harassing officials and using profanity, I got no time for it. None. Zero.
Same. I completely respect the work officials do, even as a coach. I'm not an official. In our company, we have one of the best officials in the state, and that's Henry Bray. It's not even it's objectively, he's one of he just got an award for baseball umpiring. So we have a lot of people from all walks of life that are taking part as officials in sports, as coaches. Nobody in Wisconsin as a coach or an official is making a lot of money. Head coach in our district makes $4,000 to coach a football season, right? That's nothing.
Right.
There's Texas, you make $135,000, a little bit different, right? Here, you get a few $1,000s if you're on top of your teaching paycheck. I really feel like anything that addresses fan behavior is a step in the right direction. I think this one passes almost unanimously, if not everybody's saying yes to it.
100% agree on that one. A couple minutes left, Jimmy. Where do you want to go? Want to talk Brewers? You want to talk what else? The draft's coming up. What do you want to talk about?
I think I mentioned the draft. I think the NFL draft being in Wisconsin is a really, really big deal. And I think you get a big event like this. Green Bay's never getting a Super Bowl. We'll just put that out there, right? Green Bay's not getting a Super Bowl until global warming makes it 80 degrees in February in Green Bay, right? It's just not happening, right?
Coming next year. No, I'm just kidding.
We got a few years maybe. We get the draft. And if you look at the kind of the transformation and everything that's gone into it, I know that for us to host this kind of a big event, it's such a wonderful deal. There's so much Wisconsin and Green Bay involvement in it. A lot of community people, people that couldn't travel all these other places now get to experience a big NFL event right here in Wisconsin. This is a really cool deal for us here, just as a sports community at large in Wisconsin. I think it's free to get into, so if people are going to go experience it, I would say go do it. I don't know that we'll ever get this chance again in this generation, so go experience this. It's really cool.
And we got our great sports reporter, Mike Clemens, who knows the Packers like the back of his hand. He's going to be there the entire time, bringing us insight, interviews. So really looking forward to Mike's reporting up there for the draft.
Yes, Mike Clemens will be there on site handling all that for us. I've covered the NFL draft a few times in my career. It's a really, really cool deal. I think that if you're a fan and you really want to check out something cool sports-wise this month, the NFL draft is it. Go check it out. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Milwaukee Brewers on the air tonight starting at 8:10 for the pregame show. It's a late one because they are out west against the San Francisco Giants for a 4-game series out there against the Giants. Over the weekend, so great to see these young guys, Jimmy, on the Brewers, the rookies, having big days, and that's super cool, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that were really worried about them at the early rocky starts. Again, a couple of blowouts, even the manager address. They've had like 4 big blowout games. It's going to take some time. They replaced a lot of pieces. Willie Adames going to San Francisco is a good example. You have to figure out what you're doing on the left side of the infield. Your pitching staff, I think they overturned over half of their pitching staff, including the closer on the back end of it. There's so much that has to come together for a baseball team to work. The Brewers don't have a budget to do this like other teams do, where they just got to spend. They're doing this, nickel and diming it, and they're figuring it out. They're finding ways to be competitive through it. A lot of credit to that. And it is fun. Brewers baseball is a fun experience any day you go.
Tonight at 8:10 for the broadcast, the pregame show on select stations across Civic Media. Jimmy Kuska, always a pleasure, my friend. Have a great day, Jimmy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Hour 2 is next. Come on back. Thank you, Jimmy. Great job as always. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. I'll have web articles up this week if it comes back up in a comment or something. So civicmedia.us will have coverage of the annual meeting throughout the week. So,
all right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
6 till 8.
We are the keepers of the wild. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving the natural landscapes that define our nation.
AI calls out Pope Francis, NIL, and fan fiascos.
Oh my gosh.
Wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters. Together with firearm, ammunition, and archery manufacturers, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. For more information, visit outdoorstewards.org.
This is your local civic media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime. Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
Little Rice Krispie bar, little energy boost, little sugar for hour two, everybody.
WMDX Columbus, Madison's home for real news and great conversation. A civic media station.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Michelle Franzen. The faithful gathering in St. Peter's Square this hour in Rome, where the Vatican is leading a rosary prayer service to honor Pope Francis, who died earlier today. Francis, who became known as the People's Pope, traveled the world up until he was hospitalized recently for double pneumonia. The 88-year-old pontiff participated in Easter Sunday services and rode through St. Peter's Square, greeting the crowd. Vice President Vance met with the Pope Sunday at the Vatican. ABC's Rachel Scott says President Trump has ordered flags be flown at half-staff across the country in his honor.
President Trump met with Pope Francis just once in 2017. He had called it the honor of a lifetime, but there were some disagreements in their relationship, specifically on immigration. Recently, when Pope Francis was asked about the president's mass deportation plans, he said if true, it would be disgraceful, warning that it would end very badly.
After his funeral, cardinals will convene and choose his successor. This is ABC News.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Local congregations and groups are mourning Pope Francis. He died today at age 88. Donald Hying, Bishop of the Madison Diocese, says Pope Francis will be remembered for his, quote, desire for peace in the world and love for the poor. Francis was the first pope from Latin America. The president of Forward Latino, headquartered here in Wisconsin, says he was a pope for all people, choosing humble accommodations instead of extravagant ones like most pontiffs before him. Cardinals will begin an elaborate process for choosing a new leader of the Catholic Church. And you're paying less at the pump right now, but because of tariffs, everything is still in limbo. Melissa Kay has our Monday update on gas prices.
Gas prices continued to fall over the last week, dropping 5.7 cents per gallon for an average of $2.95 today. This is 12.9 cents lower than a month ago and over 43 cents per gallon lower than this time last year. Gas prices fell in over 40 states last week, but officials at Gas Buddy say the downward trend in prices is beginning to stall. Prices in 2025 have been much lower than the previous year. This is partly due to OPEC's ongoing restoration of oil production and continued uncertainty surrounding tariff policy and its potential impact on the global economy.
The average price for a gallon of regular in Dane County today is $2.97. Meanwhile, if you park in a city-operated garage in downtown Madison, it may take a little longer to get in or out. Contractors are upgrading payment systems at parking garages. You should always have at least one exit lane open, but you may have different traffic patterns inside the garages, so just pay attention. Staff expect to be in one garage each day. Once they finish these upgrades, the machines will read chip cards and you'll be able to tap to pay. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
The Brewers clobber the A's. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Brewers had a season-high 16 hits on the way to a 14-1 win over the A's. Milwaukee stole 9 bases in the game.
I just sent you the W. Wasserman Schultz
Both
clip.
franchise records. The Brewers' Sal Frelick.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that every team and every catcher thinks that, like whether we're stealing or not, just being at first base or second base, the pitcher and catcher thinking about you was a success.
Okay, got it. By the way, did you see yesterday in the Brewers game
collecting hits,
how many steals they got?
I didn't see how many they got.
Yeah, they broke their record.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's one of the ways we can beat you.
The Crew in San Fran tonight against the Giants. NBA, Bucks getting ready for Game 2 tomorrow night after losing 117-98 Saturday to the Pacers.
Yeah, they got 6 steals in the first inning.
Wow, that's crazy.
Hopefully we can improve that, or we can change that. We'll see. But going to Game 2, we're going to be better.
That's Giannis Antetokounmpo with sports. I'm Mike Clemens. Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on
Tom,
your local
yes,
Civic
I
Media
took the
radio
quiz,
station or the Civic
and
Media app.
but I forgot to bug Todd about it.
Still
So
battling a brutal wind today,
Yes,
gusting up to
I did
30
make
to
the
40
promise,
miles
LA.
per hour
It's
under
just I was
blue
with
sky
family all
skies.
weekend, so it
High
didn't
temperatures
happen.
stay mild though, scraping the low 50s before we warm things up to about 60 degrees tomorrow. But chances of scattered showers and some thunderstorms. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Right now, 44 degrees.
Reviewing the week's legal news with a friend of the court.
Well, I'm looking forward to Saturday morning. I haven't missed one. Outstanding, just like being in school.
It has been a week in the areas of law and government and the aspiration for justice in America. As always, I am delighted. I am honored that you have chosen to spend some of your weekend time with me in discussion.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel. Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Mike Starr joins us here on Nightlight. Your time in Goodfellas, Mike. What you just said was an ad lib to De Niro. He's like security, and you're like, you're looking at him.
Well, that whole scene was improvised. And Paul Hip, he said, make sure you don't call it ad libbing. It's improvisation. It was quite a process.
Got about 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with the outstanding Mr. Aaron Zommers, our producer engineer on the board. It is 6 past the hour, 1 o'clock. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big broadcast on this Monday, back to work, back to school, April 21st, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite. Glad to have you along. Overcast skies at the world headquarters of Civic Media in downtown Madison. Mr. Zommers, a little chillier today. By Wednesday, sunny skies. Maybe 70 degrees in Madison.
Perhaps. I don't know. It's not too chilly. It's nice out, though, as long as you got a little jacket.
You will find me. The chairs came out this weekend or on Friday at Memorial Union on campus here at UW Madison. The Sunburst chairs. My favorite spot to chill out in nice weather in Madison. And Easter weekend was fantastic. Back home, we spent a little time with the family back there. Got to see everybody. Good time was had by all. Some great ham. That was great. Made my nieces, first time they'd had it, my paternal grandmother's recipe of rich man pie. It's a very simple...
Rich man pie?
It used to be called poor man pie back, I guess, in the Depression era. But it's a recipe from my great-great-grandmother. And it's basically just like a crust and butter and flour and sugar and vanilla. And you bake that. And they thought it was spectacular, but it's a very simple thing to make, not very economical. That's why it came out of the Depression era. So always fun to pass down some of my maternal great-grandmother's recipe for rhubarb custard pie, which my mom and I still make. That's getting ready. The rhubarb's starting to come up. It's that time of year. Was outside doing a little gardening in mom's, helped out with a little gardening with mom, removing some of the dirt away from rose bushes and this type of thing. I can report to you, our regular listeners know, the groundhog is still making his burrow under mom's back deck. He has not been. We're going to have to buy a new trap, a new live trap, because the one we have is too rusty. So that's the update of the groundhog. The groundhog, much like Spectrum, is still a thorn in my side. Lots to get to this hour. Many thanks, by the way, to Matt Flynn and Jimmy Kuska in hour number 1 for being here. Going to do what's worse in a minute. And also talk a little bit about the Democratic Party leadership. Be interested in your thoughts on this. I can't wait. But again, the top story of the day, and I grew up Methodist. I would say I'm non-denominational now, My mom goes to Lutheran church, but had Matt Flynn on, a lifelong practicing Catholic. And I think the passing of Pope Francis overnight gives pause. I mean, he is a world leader, after all, at the Vatican and of Catholics all around the world. I thought this was an interesting take online, comparing Francis to his predecessors. Of course, Benedict, his immediate predecessor, who focused on theological precision and was the first pope in forever to abdicate his position. Before him, John Paul II, who emphasized doctrinal clarity. Francis, though, focused on encounter over enforcement, compassion over condemnation, dialogue over dogma. This is one of his quotes. I really like this from Pope Francis. Said, quote, "I see the church as a field hospital after battle. It is useless to ask a seriously injured person if he has high cholesterol and about the level of his blood sugar. You have to heal his wounds. Then we can talk about everything else." And I thought that was just so well said. The metaphor reveals his leadership philosophy: meet people in their pain, heal first, judge later, go to the wounded rather than wait for them to come to you. I just view him as a man of great compassion. Former President Obama tweeted this out today. He said, quote, "Pope Francis was the rare leader who made us want to be better people. In his humility and his gestures at once simple and profound, embracing the sick, ministering to the homeless, washing the feet of young prisoners, he shook us out of our complacency and reminded us that we are all bound by moral obligations to God and to one another. Today, Michelle and I mourn with everyone around the world, Catholic and non-Catholic alike, who drew strength and inspiration from the Pope's example. May we continue to heed his call to, quote, never remain on the sidelines of this march of living hope," unquote. Former President Obama with his words today. I would read a profound statement by the current president, but there is none. He simply just said he was a good guy. We're praying for him. And he was very proud of himself this morning. He announcing that we were going to lower our flags to half mast. Not mast, but mass, in honor of Pope Francis.
You know,
so there's that.
I do question his literacy, but that's not new.
Right, but that's not new. But anyway, for those Catholics around the world, everyone, we mourn the loss of a man who I think tried his best, as we all do at whatever station we are in life. 12 minutes now past the hour, 1 o'clock. Time once again for What's Worse. Let's go.
This or that, this or that. Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this.
Time once again for What's Worse. You know, prize money involved, nothing to give away. But it is your chance to have your voice heard all across statewide radio, all 11 news, talk, sports stations in civic media. No better way to get your voice and product heard statewide than advertising on Civic Media's radio network. You can find out how by going to civicmedia.us. All right, Zombers, timely indeed, as Mike Lucas likes to say, because I think over the Thanksgiving weekend, now I can tell you, this is like the fourth time in 3 days I have referred to Easter as Thanksgiving. What's going on? I don't know.
I don't know either.
There's no explanation. Clearly, I must have really enjoyed Thanksgiving this year, which I did. Anyway, we spent time, a lot of folks over the Easter holiday spend time with family and friends. And so you're in usually a larger group than we normally would be. Sometimes you're sitting closer to people than you normally would. I will tell you, I did not have this experience this weekend, but some people might have. What's worse? Here's the category. What's worse? Bad breath or bad body odor? Bad breath or bad body odor? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. You can also text us on the Civic Media app. The Civic Media app. If you don't have it, download it today. Go to your app store. Go to your search bar. Type in Civic, C-I-V-I-C, Media. It'll pop up, little CM logo. Click on that. It'll download less than a minute. It's free. It's what CBS's Gail King calls a deal. The Civic Media app, get it today. I'm laughing because Zombers just put up on the stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter X. We have a graphic for this on the stream for what's worse. And on the bad breath side, I thought that was Arnold Schwarzenegger first, but I don't
no, it's not.
It's somebody else.
I don't know who it is, but it's not Arnie.
It's like two politicians, and they're basically greeting each other in suits, two guys, and they're kind of forehead to forehead, very, very close for
You're gonna
bad
smell the breath.
They can smell the breath. On the body odor side, when I first saw this graphic, I thought it was a woman like doing like her body in half and like.
Oh, I see how you saw that.
You know what I mean? Like.
But no,
it's not. It's not that. It's a woman smelling. Supposedly, I guess I can see the back of his head in the mirror shot. I guess her husband's underarm,
right up in there.
right
in the
up
armpit.
in there. I don't know anybody who does that. By the way, I'm not sure that it's a real shot. By the way, anyway, bad breath or bad body odor. Have you been in these types of situations before, Zombers?
Most certainly. I mean, well, anybody who went to junior high and high school definitely experienced these before kids learned what deodorant is, which that's understandable.
Right.
You
You're
know?
going through puberty and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I don't fault people in that category.
No.
It's when you have adults who should be well adjusted.
Right.
And either never brush their teeth or never shower or anything. Or,
well, go ahead.
Recently, I was playing board games with some people, and one of them came from work, and I think he needs new shoes. It did not smell
that's
good.
Foot odor, which I
Yes.
guess is a form of body odor.
It's a specific category.
It's a specific category. You're absolutely right.
But he knew, and he was like, "Yeah, sorry, Yeah.
Wait a minute. If you know and you still that's you got to do something about that, man. I mean, you can at least buy. I mean, if you don't have money to buy new shoes, there's like foot powders or sprays or something that will help dramatically to neutralize that odor.
Yeah. Well, I imagine he'll be coming back another time, so we'll see.
We'll see.
I'll let you know how that situation develops.
What's worse, bad breath or bad body odor? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Let's go to the phone lines. Brian in Milwaukee, listening on WAUK. Brian, bad breath or bad body odor? What's worse?
I'm going to have to go with body odor.
Any particular reason? Any recent bad experiences?
Bad experience. Had a coworker once who I don't know if I'm assuming she showered, but I don't know because every time we worked with this person,
really,
it reeked the whole shift, and even after the person left the area, it reeked, and it's just like, oh my god.
That's when it hangs in the air, right? They call that, it just hangs in the air.
Right.
Right.
I mean, at least if it's bad breath, you can grab some mouthwash or a mint or something like that, but there was no amount of Febreze or anything that's going to clean up that mess.
No amount of Febreze. That's a great line. No, I know what you're
Not
talking
a problem. I'm here all day.
I appreciate it, Brian. Thank you so much, Brian, in Milwaukee. What's worse, bad breath or bad body odor? Boy, that's... And because I think we've all been there, like where we wake up, in the morning or running late, and there's one day you don't take a shower. But that there also is chronic people. That's just... our ongoing contributor, Jeff Perry, on Facebook says, are you referring to me? No, Jeff, no. Jeff and I worked together a long time. I don't ever recall Jeff having either bad body odor or bad breath.
We weren't going to say your name. You called yourself out.
855-752-4842. Mark in Prairie du Sac. Mark, bad breath or bad body odor? What's worse?
Well, this is some years ago when I was still working, and there was a guy that you could tell who it was before you even turned around and saw him.
Oh, really? That distinct?
Like eight feet away from the guy, and just, I don't know what the guy's problem was, but it was just something else. I mean, that it was just pretty wretched.
That's where the paint on the walls is starting to peel. All right, we'll come on back a little bit more. What's worse, bad body odor or bad breath? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. It's the Allbaugh Show for Monday on the Civic Media Radio Network.
One of the other people in that same board game group did not have any odor problems himself, but someone he works with, he's told the story multiple times that you can tell if that person he works with was in the room during the day.
Oh my gosh.
Like not even they were just there, not they're there now, but they were there at some point. And they complained to him about it, but
that is wretched.
Apparently it is wretched. Apparently it's not enough for admin to do anything. And I don't understand. Because they tell him and he doesn't change anything.
I don't get it.
And yeah, LA Tom saying bad breath is worse when you're close. I think so, but it's easier to get away.
Yeah, to a certain degree, although like
Saturday, May 31st at the Overture
I've been in a couple of situations where it's a one-on-one like conversation. And like, I guess
it can be difficult to get
yeah,
away
like
from
you're
it.
like they're asking you questions. They want to keep talking like for a good 10 minutes plus.
That's
and
true.
It's just like ugh.
It's the Eco Minute powered by Clean Wisconsin, your environmental voice since 1970. I'm Amy Barrio. Could coal
Yeah,
make
I don't know
climate
why that
in
is. It
Wisconsin?
does feel harder to tell somebody about bad breath, even though it's easier to cure a lot of times. You could just be like, here you go, have a mint.
Well, I think that's a good question too. Have you ever told someone, "Hey, you need to brush your teeth," or like, "Hey, you need to put"? I mean, I don't know if I've been around a lot of people that have both, but other than like,
I have in Boy Scouts.
other than like, I guess my family maybe a couple of times.
Mostly family or in Boy Scouts where it's like, dude, we've been camping for 3 days. You got to take a shower.
Well, yes, that.
All right, 20 seconds.
All right.
Knowledge is
This one goes out to the groundhog under Todd's mom's porch.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 21 now past 1 o'clock on Monday, April 21st. Zomer sending that out to the groundhog under mom's porch, which is still free. It's still free. It has not been captured yet. Who sings that?
That's Soundgarden. Oh. Rusty Cage. And yeah, I'm going to break my rusty cage and run.
Well, he got the lettuce, he got the cantaloupe. By the way, thank you to our listeners. They were spot on. I took suggestions on the air. What could lure a groundhog so we could live trap it? And all the recommendations were spot on.
The trap was just too old.
The trap was too old. Category right now, what's worse, bad breath or bad body odor? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, bad breath or bad body odor? Let's go to the text line here. Got several of those coming in right now on the old text line. Bad breath or bad body odor. Megan, listening in Sun Prairie on WMDX, says body odor, bringing back bad memories of anime conventions now. Thanks, Todd. Well, we try. Jay, listening in Eau Claire on WCFW, the tap up in the valley, Chippewa Valley, says, I think body odor is worse, is far worse. I've gotten in a car with a bunch of teenage boys to a football game, and it stinks so bad. Yeah, back in the days when I used to run a church youth group, yeah, there were guys that, yeah, guys, take a shower. But yeah, again, to your point earlier, Zommers, at that age, bodies are changing, everything. You kind of like, they don't always sense that. And so you kind of give them some grace. But I mean, once you're a true adult, I mean, come on, unless you're running late occasionally or whatever. But
or sometimes there's a medical reason, in which case you should do something about it.
Right.
Like if you have chronically terrible breath, you need to see a dentist, for example.
Or I mean, a mouthwash, right? Or just brush your
if
teeth.
it's always like absolutely rancid, you should see a dentist because there could be deeper problems.
I'm not going to say who, but I once knew someone, not a close friend, but this was more of someone told me this story from their family, that someone, because I think the medical term is halitosis.
Yeah.
halitosis, and the guy had bad halitosis, and so he finally got engaged to a girl. And the grandfather said, "Well, he's just lucky because with halitosis like that, I don't think he'd ever get married." It happens.
It happens.
It happens. Yeah. Tyler in Columbia County, listening on WMDX, says he was calling earlier about what Jimmy Cusker and I were talking about, the shot clock in high school. Says the added cost of wiring is what has prevented some of us from doing it, but also the added personnel needed for it. It isn't helping with budgets for the shot clock. Well, that's a great point, Tyler. Very good point, actually. Any other things do we have here on what's worse?
LA Tom says, I lost my sense of smell from COVID, but the worst is bad breath. Woke up with someone who had bad breath, and it was the last date.
Isn't that the truth, right? Isn't that the truth? Well, if you're dating someone that has bad breath, yeah, especially like if you've been dating an individual for a while and you there's a certain amount. Let's just say it. Let's just be honest. Like, I think in dating life, the point that you reach the comfort zone is when you can fart in front of each other and not have it be embarrassing.
I guess I'm just comfortable with everyone then.
I wouldn't recommend that on a first date. But
if I got to fart, I got to fart. I can't not fart.
Yes, well, let's not go too far down that path, but there's some control, I think, over that.
I'm not just going to rip a massive one, but.
But I think with LA Tom brings up a good point. If you're dating someone and they just, I don't know, if the breath isn't fresh, that's tough. That's really tough. What's worse, bad breath or body odor? 855-752-4842. Still taking a couple things off the text line there, but yeah. Do you have a preference, Zommers? What do you think, bad breath or body odor?
I think bad breath, when it's truly terrible, usually makes me want to gag more.
That's a good point.
But I don't know. Yeah, I think it can be easier to get away from, but when you're trapped in a one-on-one conversation, I think that the worst bad breath is worse than the worst body odor. So I'm going to say bad breath is worse.
Now, that's a great point.
At least that I've smelled.
The worst bad breath is worse than the worst body odor.
At least from what I have smelled, and I am okay with that.
Now, on the flip side, and this is a broadcasting 101 thing, because when you're a broadcaster, everybody's different. So whether it's bad breath or bad body odor or perfumes and colognes, that's the other one that's for me. When you're,
that's a whole other question.
If you are in broadcasting, you don't wear cologne or perfume to work. It's just because people's throats can get sensitive or whatever. So I will say that a lot of perfume or cologne sometimes is actually worse than body odor. And also Matthew McConaughey, he's one of these guys who doesn't shower that often because he likes his own scent. As the kids say, low key. I've dated a couple of guys that not like days or whatever, but just a little bit of that natural scent. Not the worst.
It can be good as long as it's not overpowering.
Right. I'm not talking about some guy that doesn't shower for a week or something like that. But I think, and I think when you date someone, male or female, I think everybody has, right? That's why, dogs, right? Everybody has their own unique scent. It's a little bit natural, then that's one thing. If it's just gagging, that's I don't know. So a listener on WMDX says, geez, guys, pick a less gross topic.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I think it's also real world. We're very real here with people. Bad breath or bad body odor. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. I'm going to say, if I had to choose, I think you're right. I'm going to go with you, Zommers. Bad breath. Bad breath ultimately, at its worst, is worse than bad. When I've been around people with bad body odor, I could usually kind of just breathe shallow and get through it. But boy, if you're right in a direct conversation with someone who has really bad breath, that's that ain't good. Peel the paint off the walls, as they say. All right, well, that was a fun edition. That was a fun edition of What's Worse. Join us tomorrow We will not have another edition tomorrow, but we'll have another edition on Wednesday. We'll come back, tell you what tomorrow's show is for Earth Day. Very excited about that. And more political topic is the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media's Radio Network.
Gonna break my rusty cage.
Chris Geezy
The Johnny
says,
Cash version.
Chris Geezy says, this is why I tune in.
Exactly.
Savannah Tomei Olsen.
Brian,
the job market in Wisconsin
says,
continues to
just
grow.
remember,
New data
no
from
water
the
for
Department of
breeze will
Workforce
fix the
Development
hot
shows the
mess.
state added 11,000 more
Casper,
jobs in March.
I'd
We're
say
seeing the most growth
they
in
go hand in hand.
service-providing
Both are signs of
positions,
poor
construction,
hygiene.
and
That's a good
most
point.
manufacturing sectors. Unemployment
Oh, look,
continues
very
to hold
good.
steady
Thank you,
at
Jeff Perry, for that
3.2%, which is
recommendation.
below the national
Zomer is right
average
on
of 4.2%. And our labor participation rate here in Wisconsin is higher than the national average as well. Economists are watching these numbers closely as tariffs put employers in uncertain situations. Meanwhile, a bill from Republican lawmakers would make significant changes to Wisconsin's unemployment insurance law. Here's Joanne Krulatz with that story.
UI would be referred to as reemployment assistance. Waukesha Representative Scott Allen says it gives job seekers an extra push.
Oh,
calling
LA
it a
Tom, about the
compassionate bill
quiz.
designed to help
I had
people
taken it.
when they are at perhaps the
Once I
lowest.
started doing it, I
Milwaukee
remembered I actually
Representative
did take it when you
Clancy
first sent it.
questions
I
the
just
need
forgot
for
to talk to you
changes,
about it.
noting
So
there's
it's
no
interesting
data to
comparing results
suggest
now
that
and
the
then.
current
They're
UI
the same.
program has a problem that
but,
needs fixing. The bill mandates creation
I
of a
think
division of reemployment assistance within the Department of
some of the
Workforce
popular
Development
questions it
and
picks
adds requirements for those
make
seeking
it less of a
employment.
useful
It passed
tool
on a 42 committee vote
for a
Tuesday.
person to determine
Assembly
who they
Committee
should
on
vote for.
Public
For
Benefit
example, right
Reform
now there's a
also
lot
passed
of the
bill to
economic
prohibit
questions are
local
about
governments
tariffs,
from
and it's like,
using
well,
tax money for
anyone who's taking this
guaranteed
quiz
income
knows what that
programs.
question really
And
means.
Madison
It
College
means,
has
do
named
you
a
like
new
Trump or
president.
not?
Jennifer
So
Burton,
I
who's
think
currently
that
the
makes it.
provost of a
In
technical
the past,
college in
I think it was
Michigan,
more
will take
useful,
over.
and I think
The chair of the Madison College
once
board
the
says
tariff
she's committed to
craze
student
dies down, if
success
it
and
dies
will
down,
move the
I think it
college
will be useful
forward.
again.
She takes over
It
for
also
Jack Daniels, who
it's
led
kind of
MATC
long
for
for
11
people who
years.
aren't into
They've been
politics.
searching for his
Got it.
replacement for about a year and a half
But
now. Her
if you
first
have
day
somebody
is
who's
July
willing to
1st.
take 10,
I'm
15
Savannah
minutes and
Tomei
sit down
Olsen.
and go
You're
through here and
listening
answer
to
these questions, then yeah.
92.7 WMDX News.
That's my opinion on it.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. The new Star Wars film officially has a title, and it's called Star Wars Starfighter. The film's lead actor will be Ryan Gosling, and it will be directed by Sean Levy, whose previous credits include, well, pretty much everything. Levy has directed the recent smash Deadpool and Wolverine, all three Night at the Museum films, and executive produced Stranger Things.
My
Gosling's
niece
last
Gracie
big film
keeps
was
trying
The
to
Fall
video
Guy,
call me.
so I'm sure he's eager to
Really?
wash that taste out of his mouth. Star Wars Starfighter hits theaters May 28th of 2027. There is something about podcasts.
Oh,
that
it lined
seems to
me
help
up mostly
celebrities open
with
up. Emilio
the
Estevez
Democratic
recently appeared
and
on the
Green
Happy, Sad,
parties.
Confused podcast.
Oh, really?
Host
All
Josh Horowitz asked
You're
the
a greener.
Outsiders actor
I guess
what
so.
the worst note he ever got from a director was. Estevez says on the set of St. Elmo's Fire, director
Probably
Joel
just 'cause I
Schumacher
said good
screamed
things
at
about the
top of his
environment.
lungs, have a good bleeping time. Estevez says
Or that I
Schumacher
want
was
us
a
to
bully
care
and
about it.
wildly insecure. He also made a very mediocre Batman movie. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
What did I say I was going to talk about when I came back? I better make sure I do
Find the
that.
complete Civic Media lineup at
I don't know.
civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
I said politics, so I got two stories on that. I
Still
thought there was
battling
something
a
else I
brutal
said.
wind today, gusting up to 30 to 40 miles
If anybody
per
knows,
hour
tell
under
me
mostly
this is
cloudy
the mad
skies.
cow. I'm sorry.
Night temperatures stay mild though, scraping the low 50s before we warm things up to about 60 degrees tomorrow. But chances of scattered showers and some thunderstorms. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. It's 46 degrees at our studios.
They have cookies, Tony.
And from Chippewa Falls, what are Republicans voting for? If they're not voting for Medicare, Medicaid, clean energy, clean water,
tax cuts for billionaires. You wouldn't get a lot of votes for that. So you have to create an enemy. And somebody says, blame all these people like women and immigrants and black and brown folks. Your brain will sometimes want to accept that because it's the easiest of off-ramps to all of the anxiety and existential fear that you've got.
The Maggie Dawn Show, moving soon to its new time, weekdays 4 until 6.
Apparently,
on
I have
Civic Media
6%
and on the
compatibility with the
Nightlight
Constitution
with
Party.
Pete Schwab.
Higher than I expected.
You could change your name. If you could pick your own name, what would you change it to? Daniel Wheeler says, linguistically, Pete's last name is interesting because it requires a wet mouth.
About 30
requires
seconds.
a wet mouth to
having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 34 now past the hour, 1 o'clock. It's Monday, April 21st, 2025. Glad to have you along. Zommers on the board. Quick update, breaking news for you from CBS at this hour. They now know why Pope Francis passed away overnight. Officials saying that Pope Francis died from a stroke that led to a coma and heart failure, according to the Vatican. Pope Francis passing away overnight. Although he'd been in poor health for some time, he nearly died a few weeks ago due to pneumonia, but had rallied and was at the Vatican, was outside talking to parishioners, talking to the world without his oxygen on, and then got in the Pope mobile and kind of went around Vatican Square. A lot of people thought he was rallying. We're happy to see him. So just the fact that he was alive 24 hours ago and it was so sudden gave people pause, I think, as we woke up this morning. But now the Vatican's saying that the Pope has passed away due to a stroke that led to a coma and heart failure. I'm sure we will continue to hear more about that in the hours and weeks ahead. Oh, I know. I said to Zommers over the break, I said I was going to talk about something on the other side. What was it? And neither one of us could remember it. And as Denny Creighton said in Boston Legal, the great TV show of years ago, mad cow. I got the mad cow disease, which I occasionally still have. Anyway, what I was going to talk about is some of the lineup changes coming. But tomorrow for Earth Day is tomorrow. We have a great lineup for you tomorrow, including Tia Nelson, who is the daughter of former U.S. Senator and Governor of Wisconsin, Gaylord Nelson, who was the founder of Earth Day. Earth Day is tomorrow, and we're once again going to be taking the show on the road and going out to Governor Nelson State Park on the other side of Madison, the north side, right along Lake Mendota there, and doing the show. Tia Nelson is going to join us. It'll be a good time had by all. She is fantastic, and talking about her dad and the ongoing work of Tia Nelson. Also on the show tomorrow, former Wisconsin Republican State Senator Rob Coles. Of course, he had the bill that was signed into law that changed the Wisconsin State Park stickers to be annual stickers that matched up with the calendar. And he is also a supporter of the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, which right now is in a little bit of danger in the legislature. So Senator Coles will be on with us tomorrow to talk with Tia Nelson about that. You know, they've known each other a long time. Tia, of course, a Democrat, Senator Coles a Republican, but have always found ways to work in a bipartisan manner on conservation. So Senator Coles will be here. And also James Edward Mills, a historian, great activist, and really one of the preeminent people who knows the history of Wisconsin's state parks, which are celebrating 125 years this year, and also on the history in particular of Black Americans. Little known fact, and doesn't get talked about nearly enough, but the great state parks and national parks that we enjoy, many of those parks were built by Black Americans, and their story isn't often told enough. So James Edward Mills will be here tomorrow. And then tomorrow night at UW-Madison's campus, Tia Nelson and James Edward Mills are going to be putting on a presentation. So we'll talk about that. So big Earth Day show live from Governor Nelson State Park. We hope you join us tomorrow for that. And that'll be our final show in this time slot. In the key phrase, in this time slot. So we're just moving back a couple of hours because, quite frankly, I need more sleep.
It wouldn't hurt me either.
No. We're just a few lineup changes, and so that's going to be fantastic. We're just going to be a couple of hours later. So tomorrow, normal time, noon to 2, and then on Hump Day, we're going to hump back a couple of spaces, a couple of hours, and so we'll be coming at you starting at 2 o'clock each afternoon from 2 until 4, right after Tom Hartman and right before Maggie Dawn. So it's going to go Pat Kreitlow and the Pat Kreitlow Morning Show from 6 until 9. And then it's going to be our great friend Jane Matnair. Well, Pat Kreitlow's a great friend too. Jane Matnair and Greg Bach with Matnair on Air from 9 until 10. And then, or 9 until 11, pardon me, 9 until 11. And then 11 until 2, Tom Hartman, the big national show, is going to be on the air, and then we're going to come on after Tom Hartman. So you get a big national show, and then you get us. and then Maggie Dawn. And then Maggie Dawn comes after us, and it'll be spectacular. And then we got Pete Schwab at Nightlight. The one guy, Pete Schwab, this is how good Pete Schwab is. He's so good and so solid They just looked at Pete Schwab and said,
I ain't touching that.
We can't improve that
Don't
show.
fix what ain't
We
broke.
can't improve Nightlight. And they just said, we're leaving him right there. So that'll be great.
the rock of civic media.
Exactly right. No, always entertaining. Always, it's a great way to end your day. So stay tuned for Pete Schwab. And important to note that Earl Ingram isn't going anywhere, by the way. He's going to still be with Civic Media, and he'll be doing a podcast. He's going to be appearing on different programs throughout Civic Media. He is starting a new special correspondent series on lead pipes in Milwaukee, which he has done a lot of work with. So be glad to have Earl Ingram Jr. still part of Civic Media as well. And as L.A. Tom points out, and this will really confuse people, yes, we are still on noon to 2 in the Pacific time zone.
We're also still on 12 to 2, as in our show is going to get replayed every night at midnight.
Zombers, so if you're up late, our show is going to get replayed every day at 12 midnight until 2 a.m.
Now that we've thoroughly confused you.
Which I'm told now we get to add in spicy content for the replay. Is that
Do
true?
we? I don't know.
Oh,
We'll have
okay.
to look into that.
No. Tomorrow noon till 2, and then starting on Wednesday will be 2 until 4, right here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Let's get to this. This is a little newsy today. Some new news on Mr. Hegseth, Pete Hegseth. Remember him? Secretary of Defense, Fox News boy, correspondent, was a veteran, applauded for that military service, but never really led a lot of troops or anything like that. As reported, and he has not really denied it that much, has a little bit of trouble with the bottle. And I'm not talking the baby bottle either. And yet Trump wanted a sycophant, which is a fancy word for a yes man, at Department of Defense. So he puts him up there at Department of Defense. Well, it turns out that Pete Hegseth was talking about military orders on this chat platform known as Signal. And it's not overseen by Department of Defense or the military. Makes it much more hackable for our enemies like China and Russia to figure out what's going on. And so he's talking about military strikes on Signal with this group chat, in which he inadvertently puts in a reporter from The Atlantic who exposes all this, and White House and Hegseth admit that it's all true. This happened, which gave a lot of pause to people not certainly in military, but certainly people like me who never served, but during my time in a congressional office helped with military affairs, just something that's not done. Here now, new reporting this morning, President Trump today denies that the Pentagon has become dysfunctional with Secretary Pete Hegseth at the helm. Quote, there is no dysfunction at all. All the Houthis, ask the Houthis how much dysfunction they have, he said, Trump said, in a question and answer today on the White House lawn for the big Easter egg roll contest. CNN reported this morning that Hegseth shared detailed plans about a military operation against the Houthis in Yemen on a second Signal group chat. This one, his personal phone, which included his wife, lawyer, and brother. Meanwhile, some of Hegseth's closest advisors, including 3 former senior officials he fired last week, have been warning the Pentagon has descended into chaos. Trump went on to defend Hegseth even more. Trump and Hegseth spoke last night by phone, according to the New York Times, after CNN reported on the sharing of the detailed military operation plans in that second Signal group chat. I guess he fired a couple, 3 of these people, but several of his chief of staff, his deputy chief of staff, basically the closest people who had been around the Pentagon for a long time, all said, this is it. We're out of here. This place is dysfunctional. And now, according to our own Dan Schaefer at the Recombobulation Area and our political editor here at Civic Media, reporting that United States Senator Tammy Baldwin tweeted this, quote, we have known this for a long time. Pete Hegseth is not fit for the job, and now he's putting service members at risk. Wisconsinites in uniform deserve better. it's time for Hegseth to go, unquote. That from Wisconsin U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin this afternoon. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. What do you think of this? I mean, to me, as someone who did not wear a uniform, but was around a lot of folks who have, and have a great deal of respect and admiration for our men and women in uniform and veterans, this, to me, is not a Republican or Democratic issue. This is an American issue. You can't have the person at the top of the U.S. Defense Department giving out information to private individuals. Most people in high-level political and especially military jobs will tell you there are things they cannot discuss even with their spouse, let alone their brother or their attorney, anybody else. It's just not done. And when you do this, especially on a non-secured line or device, meaning that the U.S. military or Secret Service or CIA don't have control over it, you are opening up the people who hate us the most in Russia and China and other bad actors from intercepting that information and then allowing our service members, be it military, CIA, FBI in the field, to be killed. All right? It's putting our dads, our moms, our brothers, our sisters, our nieces and nephews, our friends, anybody who wears a uniform at risk. So in my opinion, good on Senator Baldwin for calling for Hegseth's resignation or firing. As our friend Matt Flynn likes to say, the guy is bad news. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Troy in Mount Horeb calling in. Troy, thanks for calling. What's say?
Yeah, I think he needed his wife to read the big words for him.
Well, that could be. That could be right.
No, this is awful.
No, it really is, and it's just
in these conversations.
Yeah.
He's using his personal phone for this,
Right.
which is worse than using his issued phone for it, because there's a lot better chance of that being compromised than his issued phone.
Yeah.
So everything he does is just wrong.
Yeah, totally agree. Thanks, Troy. Appreciate the call. Casper, listening on WMDX, says he's clearly incompetent, Hegseth. This may even be criminal, unquote. Agree, Casper. 855-752-4842. Dick, listening on WMDX in Madison. Dick, thanks for calling. What's say you?
Yeah, it's a matter of security of the whole country and everybody in the armed services. But I've got an idea how Trump can save him, because he likes the guy. So I think what he should do, you know how he's all big on this big birthday parade that he wants to have?
Oh, yeah.
He should move him over and create a event planner. And he could do that. and he'd do PR work, because obviously, I mean, Trump wants everybody in the world to know about his birthday. And if there's anybody that could take care of it,
Pete Hegseth.
Be Hegseth. Yeah, so make him an event planner.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What do you think of this? Hegseth now a second signal gate. And U.S. Senator from Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin, now calling on Hegseth to go. Either resign or, be fired by Trump. Let's go quickly to Brookfield. Jim in Brookfield, got about 40 seconds. Jim, it's all yours. What do you say?
I say Tammy Baldwin's actually, she's 100% correct. He's in over his head. You know, the guy, he's not qualified. And his whole mission of eliminating DEI, I mean, come on, you don't want a diverse, equal, inclusive military? I mean, let's stick to the basic facts here, defend our country rather than worrying about DEI. The guy is in over his head.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the call. Come on back. We'll wrap things up. Switch gears and talk about the Democratic Party, why one of the leaders thinks that the way to get to the majority is to get rid of some Democrats. We'll explain to the other side. Don't go anywhere. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You know, it makes your past comments that you were criticized for feel spot on.
A little bit.
the hostess
Well,
with the most
yeah, we'll see.
and I'm inviting you to the Black Brilliance Gala hosted by Urban Triage on Saturday, May 31st at the Overture Center for the Arts. Join us for an elegant night celebrating unsung heroes. For ticket information and to learn about sponsorship opportunities, please visit us at urbantriage.org. That's urbantriage.org.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
Madison, get ready to sizzle. Come into Ko-Ro Hut Korean Barbecue and Hot Pot, Easttown Mall. Indulge in all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue with the freshest meats grilled right at your table. Wash it down with boba tea. Enjoy the pleasant atmosphere. Ko-Ro Korean Barbecue and Hot Pot.
Everybody wants the same thing from their mattress. A good night's rest, am I right? You need someone to listen to what you want and who knows the materials that will get you there. At Verlo, we're your friendly neighborhood mattress genius. American made, locally crafted. Welcome to Verlo.
April is Global Volunteer Month. Wisconsin's volunteers are transforming our communities every day through their acts of service. Wondering how you can give back? Find the perfect volunteer opportunities at volunteerwisconsin.org or contact your
Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network, where it is 9 before the hour of 2 o'clock. At the top of the hour, ABC and CBS News, followed by a check of local news in your area. Some weather. Our great sports reporter, Mike Clemens, focusing in the Brewers, by the way, playing late tonight on stations in Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Kenosha, Park Falls, and Hayward. Pregame at 8:10 tonight. Going to be a late one if you want to listen to the Brewers. Taking on the San Francisco Giants out in the Bay. Again, starts at 8:10 tonight for the pregame show tonight on the Brewers Radio Network here on Civic Media. And then after the sports report with Mike Clemens, the Maggie Dawn Show from 2 until 4. At 6 o'clock, our friend Pete Schwaba with another edition of Nightlight. All right. I find this, as someone who we used to be a Republican, left the party in 2011. I do not belong to any party these days, although I vote for Democrats. In fact, I've voted exclusively for Democrats since 2011. But I'm not part of the Democratic Party, mind you. I run a lot of campaigns, from city council, county sheriff races, DA races, state senate, state assembly, congressional races. I have never heard of this strategy before, and this is real. Late last week, over the weekend, Democratic National Committee Vice Chair David Hogg unveiled his plan. He's the vice chair of the National Democratic Committee. Just got elected to this. And he also has his own private PAC, Political Action Committee. He announced that he plans to spend $20 million to primary older Democratic incumbents in Congress. Now, I'm going to paraphrase this because we're up against the clock. David Hogg, he's mid to late 20-year-old kid. And look, he went through the Parkland shooting down in Florida. Give him credit for a lot of advocacy that he's done. But this guy's coming into the National Committee now saying that they're going to target incumbent Democrats who he feels are not voting progressive or left enough, and or are simply too old to be there, in his opinion. And they're going to run younger, more progressive Democrats against a sitting Democrat in a primary. Now, he says they're only going to do this in safe Democratic seats. I've never heard of a wackier, harebrained, ridiculous strategy in my life. 20 million. Now think about this for a second. Wisconsin's 3rd congressional district. You got Derek Van Orton. Bad news over there, Republican. Why wouldn't you take part of that 20 million and defeat current Republicans who are MAGA folks to try to flip the Congress and then take control of Congress?
Especially in a district like that, where no matter your political affiliation, it's really difficult to argue genuinely that Derek Van Orden is doing anything good for anyone besides himself.
Even his own constituents. But no. David Hogg, the Democratic National Committee vice chair, says, no, we're going to spend $20 million to take out fellow Democrats who are either too old or not voting progressive enough. And I know on this program before I've said things like, I criticize the far right and the far left. And people say, well, Todd, give us an example of the far left. Exhibit A, David Hogg. This guy is far left. All right? And by the way, I would love to get a quote. I would love to find out. Gwendolyn Moore, Congresswoman from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in a safe Democratic seat. Former member of the state legislature. Met her, know her, does great work. I wonder what Democrats in Wisconsin think of this. Gwendolyn Moore is 74 years old. I don't know. According to David Hogg, she's got to go. David Hogg is going to ramp it up, take Gwen Moore out. Mark Pocan, he's older than me. No spring chicken. So there's 2 safe Democratic seats in Wisconsin's congressional delegation, Gwen Moore and Mark Pocan. David Hogg apparently thinks they both got to go. Who died and made this guy king? I mean, this guy is wacko cuckoo birds. And if Democrats think that this is the way to get back to the majority, Republicans are going to sit there and say, keep on going. I've never heard of a strategy. I mean, that is, and Republicans are doing this as well, because Republicans in the state of Wisconsin want to take out Brian Schimming. And you've got this group based out of Arizona, a far-right MAGA group, and they're coming in Wisconsin and taking over the parties in Milwaukee, Green Bay, and Dane County. And they want to get rid of Schimming. And they don't want any compromise, zero-sum game. You're either with MAGA and Trump 100% or you're gone. And this guy, David Hogg, is as dangerous on the left as the MAGA people are on the right. I spent 30 years in politics, a lot of time in the building up the street, i.e. the Capitol. And rarely did things ever get done by playing a zero-sum game. The best politics are pragmatic. You get 75% of the loaf and you move on. You get some, you give some. That's the best legislation. When people on both sides of the aisle and the extremes are ticked off at you, you know you're probably doing something right. I really hope that Democrats take a step back here and realize the harm this guy David Hogg is doing to their party. I wonder how Gwen Moore feels. And Mark Pocan. Not good. Not good at all. All right, great show today. Thanks for Matt Flynn. By the way, I talked to Matt Flynn about this, and Matt's pretty much in line with me on this. Matt Flynn, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Jimmy Kuska, thank you so very much. Also, Aaron Zomers, appreciate you. All of you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with a special Earth Day edition of the show, live from Governor Nelson State Park with Tia Nelson and many more. Hope you join us for that. Until then, whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, keep banging your drum. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
A house divided against itself would be better than this. I'm out of here.